I signed my divorce papers on the same marble countertop where I'd opened my wedding gifts 8 weeks earlier. Let me tell you where I'm coming from with this story. Because if you've ever felt like you married a stranger, if you've ever questioned your own sanity in your own home, if you've ever wondered how someone could look you in the eyes and lie so completely, this one's for you. Drop a comment below and let me know where you're watching from, because I want to know I'm not alone in this. And if you're new here, make sure you check the description box for more stories like this one. Stories about women who refused to stay silent. His name was Derek Callahan, and I met him at a charity gala in downtown Chicago on a rainy October evening 3 years ago. I was 41, recently promoted to senior project manager at a tech consulting firm, and honestly, I'd stopped believing in the kind of love they write songs about. I'd been married before, briefly, in my late 20s, a starter marriage that fizzled out before our second anniversary. Since then, I dated, sure, but nothing stuck. Nothing felt worth the risk. Derek was different. Or at least, that's what I told myself. He was 47, a financial consultant with salt and pepper hair that looked distinguished rather than aging, and he had this way of listening that made you feel like you were the only person in the room. We talked for 3 hours that first night, standing by the floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Michigan Avenue, watching the rain streak down the glass. He told me about his mother who'd passed from cancer 2 years prior, about how he'd been too focused on his career to build a real relationship, about how he was ready now. Ready for something real. I believed him. God, I believed every word. We dated for 18 months before he proposed. It was at the Botanical Gardens in the spring, surrounded by blooming tulips and the smell of fresh earth. The ring was vintage, an emerald-cut diamond that had belonged to his grandmother. He got down on one knee, and his hands were shaking, and he said, "Cassandra, I've spent my whole life building a career. Let me spend the rest of it building a life with you. How do you say no to that? How do you say no to a man who remembers how you take your coffee, who sends you articles he thinks you'd find interesting, who holds your hand during turbulence on flights because he knows you're scared? You don't. You say yes. You say yes, and you start planning a future." The wedding was small, intimate, just 40 guests at a vineyard in Napa Valley that September. My sister Jenna flew in from Portland with her husband and 2 kids. My father walked me down an aisle lined with white roses. Derek's college roommate officiated. I wore ivory silk that caught the golden hour light, and when Derek slipped the band onto my finger, his eyes were wet. Mine were too. Our first dance was to The Way You Look Tonight. I remember thinking, as he spun me slowly under the string lights, that I'd finally found it. That elusive thing. Peace. Partnership. Home. The honeymoon was in Santorini. White buildings, blue domes, sunsets that looked photoshopped. We ate fresh seafood and drank local wine, and took 1,000 pictures that I uploaded to Instagram with captions about new beginnings and answered prayers. Derek held my hand as we walked the narrow cobblestone streets. He kissed my forehead when we watched the sun sink into the Aegean Sea, but he never kissed my lips. Not once during that entire week. I told myself it was exhaustion. We'd been planning the wedding for months, and he closed a major deal at work just days before we left. Stress does things to people. Desire ebbs and flows. It would come back. We returned to our new condo in Lincoln Park, a place we'd picked out together, with exposed brick and hardwood floors and windows that flooded the living room with morning light. Derek had already moved most of his things in before the wedding, and I'd spent weeks arranging our combined belongings, making space for his books on my shelves, hanging his artwork beside mine. Creating a shared life. That first night back, I unpacked while he checked work emails. I put on the silk nightgown I bought specifically for this moment. This returned to real life as husband and wife. I came into the bedroom where he was sitting up against the headboard, laptop balanced on his knees. "Hey," I said softly, "want to take a break?" He glanced up, his expression neutral. "I've got a client call first thing tomorrow. Need to prep." "It's almost midnight, Derek." "I know. Won't be long." I slid into bed beside him, rested my head on his shoulder. He stiffened slightly but didn't pull away. I tried to kiss his neck. He shifted, adjusting the laptop. "Cass, I really need to focus." "Okay," I said. "Okay, sorry." He worked for another 2 hours. I fell asleep alone on my side of the bed. The silk nightgown still on, the tag still attached. If you've ever felt invisible in your own marriage, You know that feeling. That slow creeping realization that something is fundamentally wrong. Drop a like if you're still with me, because this is where it gets worse. The pattern repeated itself. Every night, Derek found a reason. He was tired. He had an early meeting. He wasn't feeling well. His back hurt. He'd eaten too much at dinner. The excuses varied, but the result was the same. Distance. No intimacy. No physical connection of any kind. By week 3, I couldn't ignore it anymore. I tried to talk to him over breakfast, but he was already out the door. I tried at dinner, but he claimed he had a headache. I tried one Saturday morning when neither of us had anywhere to be, sitting across from him at our kitchen table with my coffee growing cold. Derek, we need to talk. About what? He didn't look up from his phone. About us. About this. I gestured vaguely between us. We've been married almost a month and we haven't. We're not connecting. I'm connecting with you right now. You know what I mean. He set his phone down, finally meeting my eyes. His expression was hard, closed off. Cassandra, I've had a lot on my mind. Work's been intense. I understand that, but this isn't just about work. You don't touch me. You barely look at me. We're married, Derek. We're supposed to be building a life together, and I feel like I'm living with a roommate. A roommate? His voice went cold. Is that what you think of me? No, that's not. I'm trying to tell you how I feel. Well, maybe you should consider how I feel. Maybe you should consider that I have needs too, and one of those needs is space. I don't respond well to pressure, Cass. I'm not pressuring you. I'm asking you to talk to me. This feels like pressure. By week 5, I was Googling things at 3 in the morning. Unconsummated marriages, withholding intimacy, emotional abandonment. The search results were full of advice columns and forum posts from other women describing the same thing. The loneliness, the confusion, the creeping shame that maybe it was something about them. Something they'd done or failed to do. I called my sister. Jenna, I need to talk. What's wrong? You sound terrible. I told her everything. The distance. The excuses. The way Derek recoiled when I tried to initiate anything physical. How he made me feel like I was being unreasonable for wanting basic intimacy with my own husband. She was quiet for a long moment. Then, Cass, this isn't normal. You know that, right? I know. I don't understand what changed. He was so affectionate when we were dating. Was he, though? Really? I thought about it. The truth was, Derek had always been somewhat reserved. We'd been intimate during our relationship, but never frequently. He'd always had reasons to take things slow, to wait for the right moment, to not rush. I'd found it refreshing at the time. Romantic even. Like he was savoring us. Now it felt like a warning I'd ignored. You need to confront him, Jenna said. Directly. No more tiptoeing around it. Week 8. I'd been married for 8 weeks. 56 days. And my husband had not touched me once. I waited until Sunday evening. Derek was in the living room, reading a financial report. I sat down across from him, hands folded in my lap to keep them from shaking. We need to talk. Now. No more deflecting. He sighed, setting the report aside. Cassandra. No. Listen to me. We've been married for 2 months, and you've maintained complete emotional and physical distance from me. Zero intimacy. I've tried to be understanding. I've tried to give you space, but this isn't sustainable. This isn't a marriage. His face remained impassive. Are you done? I need to know what's going on. If you're not attracted to me, if you're having second thoughts, if there's someone else, just tell me. I deserve the truth. The truth. He leaned back, crossing his arms. The truth is that my comfort comes first. My needs come first. And you have no right to pressure me into anything I'm not ready for. The words hit me like a physical blow. Pressure you? Derek, I'm your wife. Exactly. You're my wife. You signed up for this. For better or worse, right? Well, this is part of it. This isn't what I signed up for. Then maybe you should have thought about that before you married me. The cruelty in his voice. The absolute lack of empathy. I sat there staring at him, this man I'd promised my life to, and I didn't recognize him. He wasn't the person who'd proposed to me in the tulip garden. He wasn't the person who'd cried during our first dance. Or maybe he was. Maybe this was who he'd always been, and I'd just been too desperate to see it. I went to bed alone that night. I lay in the dark, staring at the ceiling, and I made a decision. Monday morning, I called a divorce attorney. Her name was Patricia Moreno, and she'd handled my colleague's contentious separation 2 years prior. I sat in her office on the 42nd floor of a building on Wacker Drive, looking out at the Chicago River below, and I explained my situation. The 8-week marriage. The complete absence of intimacy. Derek's cold dismissal when I tried to address it. I expected her to tell me I was overreacting, that 8 weeks wasn't enough time to make such a drastic decision. Instead, she leaned forward, her expression serious. You'd be surprised how common this is, and how often it's a red flag for something much bigger. What do you mean? I mean that in my experience, when someone pulls away this completely, this quickly, there's usually a reason. And it's rarely a good one. Could be infidelity. Could be financial issues he's hiding. Could be a past he doesn't want you to discover. But trust your gut, Cassandra. If something feels wrong, it probably is. We filed the papers that Wednesday. Illinois is a no-fault divorce state, which meant I didn't need to prove anything beyond irreconcilable differences. Patricia advised me not to tell Derek until he was served, to protect myself legally and emotionally. I moved through those days like a ghost. I went to work, ran my meetings, responded to emails. I came home and made dinner and ate it alone because Derek was always working late. I slept on the couch most nights because sharing a bed with him felt like torture. And all the while I wondered, what had I missed? What signs had I ignored? The papers were served on a Thursday morning, 3 weeks after I'd filed. I wasn't there. I'd gone to work early, deliberately avoiding the moment. Patricia texted me at 9:30, asterisk papers delivered. He didn't take it well. Be prepared for him to reach out, asterisk. He called me 14 times that day. 14 calls, 23 texts. I didn't answer any of them. I couldn't. If I heard his voice, if he tried to explain or apologize or manipulate me into staying, I was afraid I'd crumble. That evening, I stayed late at the office. I sat at my desk as the sky darkened outside my window and I let myself cry. For the marriage I'd wanted. For the future I'd imagined. For the version of myself who'd believed in him. When I finally drove home just after 10, every light in the condo was on. Derek was waiting for me in the living room. He was sitting on the edge of the couch, elbows on his knees, head in his hands. When I walked in, he looked up, and his eyes were red-rimmed. You want to explain this? He held up the divorce papers, his hand shaking. I set my bag down slowly, keeping the kitchen island between us. I think they're self-explanatory. Self-explanatory. His voice cracked. Cassandra, we've been married 8 weeks. 8 weeks, and you're already giving up. I'm not giving up, Derek. I'm getting out. Getting out. Of what? We have a good life. A beautiful home. We have nothing. The words came out sharper than I intended. We have a legal document and shared expenses. That's not a marriage. He stood, and I instinctively took a step back. He noticed. Something flickered across his face. Hurt, maybe, or anger, but he stayed where he was. I know I've been distant, he said, his voice softening into something that almost sounded genuine. I know I haven't been the husband you deserve, but I can change. We can work on this. We can go to counseling. Why didn't you suggest counseling before? When I was begging you to talk to me? Because I didn't think it was that serious. I didn't think you'd, he gestured at the papers. I didn't think you'd throw away our marriage without even trying. I did try. For 8 weeks I tried. Every single day. Cassandra, please. He moved closer, and this time I didn't step back. Don't do this. We can fix this. I swear to you I can be better. I can be what you need. For just a moment, I almost believed him. His desperation seemed real. His pain seemed genuine. This was the man who'd held my hand through turbulence, who'd remembered my coffee order, who'd cried on our wedding day. But then I remembered the coldness in his voice when he'd said my comfort comes first. I remember the weeks of silence, the rejection, the way he'd made me feel crazy for wanting basic intimacy. I'm staying at Jenna's, I said quietly. I already packed a bag. It's in my car. You're leaving? Tonight. I should have left weeks ago. I turned toward the door. Behind me, I heard him say my name one more time, pleading, desperate. But I didn't stop. I couldn't. If I turned around, if I let him see how much this was breaking me, I'd never leave. If you've ever walked away from someone you loved, even when you knew it was the right thing to do, you know that feeling. That mix of relief and grief that sits in your chest like a stone. Hit that subscribe button if you're invested in this story, because what comes next, nobody saw it coming. And check the description box for more stories like this. Stories about women who trusted their instincts even when everyone else told them they were wrong. Jenna lived in a 2-bedroom Craftsman in Wicker Park with her husband Tom and their kids, Sophie and Max. She'd made up the guest room for me, and when I arrived just before midnight, she was waiting in the kitchen with tea and a blanket, and the kind of hug only an older sister can give. "You did the right thing," she whispered. "Then why does it feel so wrong?" "Because you loved him. Or at least, you loved who you thought he was." Over the next few days, I started pulling my life apart from Derek's. I changed my direct deposit back to my individual account. I called our joint credit card company and removed myself as a co-holder. I started looking for my own apartment, scrolling through listings during my lunch breaks, trying to imagine a future that didn't include him. Patricia sent me copies of Derek's response to the divorce filing. He wasn't contesting it, which surprised me. No fight for reconciliation, no request for mediation. Just a straightforward agreement to dissolve the marriage. He wanted to split assets 50-50, keep his own retirement accounts, divide the furniture from the condo. It was all very clean, very rational. Too clean. Too rational. Something's off, I told Patricia during a phone call. He went from begging me to stay to agreeing to everything within 48 hours. That doesn't make sense. People process things differently, she said carefully. Maybe he realized you were serious. Or maybe he realized he's hiding something, and he wants this over with quickly. Do you have reason to believe he's hiding assets? I don't know. Maybe. He was always cagey about his finances. We never fully combined everything, even after we got married. He had accounts I couldn't access, investments he wouldn't discuss in detail. That's unusual for a newlywed couple. Everything about Derek is unusual. Patricia was quiet for a moment. I can recommend a forensic accountant. They can look into his financial records, see if there's anything he's not disclosing. It's not cheap, but if he's hiding money, it could be worth significantly more than what it costs to investigate. How much are we talking? A few thousand, probably. But Cassandra, if your gut is telling you something's wrong, I'd listen to it. In cases like this, there's almost always more to the story. I hired the accountant. Her name was Diane Chun, and she had 30 years of experience uncovering hidden assets in divorce cases. I gave her everything I had: bank statements, tax returns, investment account statements, the paper trail of our brief financial life together. 3 weeks later, she called me with her findings. "Cassandra, we need to meet in person." We met at a coffee shop in the Loop. Diane had a folder 2 inches thick, and when she opened it, I saw pages covered in highlighted numbers and handwritten notes. My heart started racing before she even spoke. "Your husband is extremely good at hiding money," she said without preamble. "But nobody's perfect." "What did you find?" "For starters, he has 3 accounts you don't know about. One's a money market account with about $80,000 in it. One's an investment account with another $120,000. And the third is a business account for an LLC registered in Delaware." My stomach dropped. An LLC? Derek doesn't own a business. According to public records, he's the sole member of a consulting firm called Callahan Strategic Solutions. It's been active for 4 years. For years. We've been together for almost 3. Why wouldn't he tell me about this? "That's the interesting part," Diane continued. "The business had minimal activity until about 6 months ago. Then suddenly, there's significant money flowing through it. We're talking hundreds of thousands of dollars. 6 months ago. That was right around when we'd set our wedding date. Where's the money coming from? That's harder to trace. The deposits are coming from another LLC, which is essentially a shell company registered in Nevada. I'm still digging, but my guess is it's either money he's moving from other accounts to hide from you in the divorce, or it's income from something he doesn't want documented in his personal name." "Like what?" Diane looked at me carefully. "That's not my area of expertise. But in my experience, when someone goes to this much trouble to hide money, creating shell companies, moving funds across state lines, it's either because they're planning to leave their spouse and don't want to split assets, or because the money's coming from somewhere questionable. Questionable how? Could be anything. Under-the-table consulting work to avoid taxes. Money laundering. Fraud. I can't say for sure without more information. You might want to consider hiring a private investigator to look into his activities, not just his finances. I felt like I'd been punched in the chest. I'd married a man I didn't know. A man with secret accounts, hidden businesses, and unexplained income. A man who'd pushed me away the moment we'd signed our marriage license. What had I gotten myself into? I drove back to Jenna's in a daze. When I got there, she took one look at my face and said, "What happened?" I told her everything. The hidden accounts, the mysterious LLC, the sudden influx of money that coincided with our wedding date. Oh my God, Cass. Do you think he married you as some kind of, I don't know, cover? Or to access your credit or something? I don't know. Nothing makes sense. Why marry someone if you're planning to hide your assets from them? Why go through with a whole wedding, meet my family, pretend to be in love? Tom, who'd been listening from the kitchen, spoke up. Maybe he didn't plan it that way. Maybe something changed after you got married and he panicked. What could have changed? You'd be surprised. Maybe he got in over his head with something. Maybe someone threatened him. Maybe he realized marrying you put you in danger somehow, and the only way he could protect you was to push you away. It sounded insane, like something from a crime thriller. But it also explained so much, the sudden change, the coldness that seemed almost forced, the way he pushed me away while still seeming conflicted about it. Or maybe I was just desperate to find an explanation that made him less of a villain. Maybe I was still looking for a way to believe that the man I'd fallen in love with had been real. I hired the private investigator the next day. His name was Marcus Webb, a former Chicago PD detective who now ran his own firm out of a cramped office above a Thai restaurant in Pilsen. I sat across from him at a desk buried under file folders and told him everything. The distance, the hidden accounts, the mysterious LLC, Tom's theory that Derek might be in some kind of trouble. Marcus listened without interrupting, jotting down notes in a leather-bound notebook. When I finished, he leaned back in his chair, which creaked under his weight. You're right. This isn't a typical infidelity case. This is someone with serious secrets. The question is, how deep do you want me to dig? As deep as it takes. That could get expensive. And it could uncover things you wish you didn't know. I'm already living in hell, I said. At least knowing the truth will tell me why. Marcus worked fast. Within a week, he'd followed Derek to 3 different locations. His office downtown, a strip mall in Schaumburg, and a residence in Oak Park. The strip mall location is interesting, Marcus told me over the phone. It's a suite rented to Callahan Strategic Solutions. But here's the thing. Your husband's only there once, maybe twice a week, and usually late at night. Around 10-11 p.m. What's he doing there? Can't tell from outside. Windows are tinted, but there's usually at least 2 other cars in the lot when he's there. Nice cars. A Mercedes, a BMW. Not what you'd expect for a rundown strip mall office. And the Oak Park residence. That's where it gets complicated. The house is owned by a woman named Elaine Novak. She's 42, works as a real estate broker. And according to public records, she and Derek co-signed a lease for that house 18 months ago. 18 months ago. When Derek and I had just gotten engaged. Are they involved romantically? I haven't seen anything that suggests that. No physical affection, no intimate gestures. But they're definitely connected. I've got photos of them meeting, talking outside the house, getting into cars together. There's familiarity there. History. Who is she? That's what I'm working on. But Cassandra, there's something else. When I ran a background check on your husband, some things came up that don't match what you've told me about him. My mouth went dry. What do you mean? You said he worked in financial consulting, right? That he's been in the industry for 20+ years. Yes. He works for Preston and Associates downtown. Has for years. He does work there, but only for the last 3 years. Before that, his employment history gets murky. There are gaps. Long periods where he doesn't show up in any databases, any records. And the college degree he claims to have from Northwestern? I can't find any record of him graduating. Can't even find record of him attending. The room felt like it was tilting. Are you saying he lied about his education? I'm saying his background doesn't match his story. And in my experience, People who lie about their credentials are usually hiding more than just a missing diploma. They're hiding who they really are. That night, I couldn't sleep. I lay in Jenna's guest bed, staring at shadows on the ceiling, trying to reconcile the man I'd married with the man Marcus was uncovering. The man with the fake degree, the hidden businesses, the secret woman in Oak Park. Who was Derek Callahan? Had anything he told me been true? My phone buzzed at 2:17 in the morning. A text from an unknown number. Asterisk, we need to talk. About Derek, asterisk. My heart jumped into my throat. I sat up, staring at the screen. Who is this? 3 dots appeared immediately. Then, asterisk, someone who knows what he did. Meet me tomorrow. 2 p.m. Millennium Park by the Bean. Come alone, asterisk. I screenshot the message and sent it to Marcus. He called me 30 seconds later, his voice thick with sleep. Don't go, he said immediately. I have to. Cassandra, this could be anything. A scam, a setup, someone trying to extort you. Or it could be someone with answers. I need answers, Marcus. I need to know who I married. He sighed heavily. Fine, but I'm going to be there. You won't see me, but I'll have eyes on you the whole time. If anything feels off, if anything makes you uncomfortable, you walk away. Understood. Understood. I barely slept the rest of that night. I kept rereading the text, trying to figure out who'd sent it. Elaine Novak. Someone from Derek's past? Someone he'd wronged? Someone he owed money to? Jenna drove me to the park the next day. I made her wait in the car 3 blocks away with the engine running. This is insane, she said, gripping the steering wheel. You know that, right? This whole thing is insane. I know, but I'm doing it anyway. The October air was crisp and biting, the kind of cold that cut through your jacket and settled in your bones. Millennium Park was moderately crowded with tourists taking selfies with Cloud Gate, the Bean, and I positioned myself near the south side, scanning faces, looking for anyone who seemed to be looking for me. At exactly 2:03, a woman approached me. She was petite, maybe 5'3", with dark hair pulled back in a severe ponytail and oversized sunglasses that hid half her face. She wore a black peacoat and carried a large leather tote bag. Something about the way she moved, purposeful, careful, told me she'd done this before. Met strangers in public places, delivered information that would change lives. Cassandra, she said quietly. That's me. Let's walk. We moved away from the Bean, heading toward the Lurie Garden where there were fewer people. She kept her head down, hands shoved deep in her pockets. I could see Marcus about 50 yards behind us, pretending to look at his phone. I'm Elaine, she said. Elaine Novak. My pulse quickened. You're the woman from Oak Park. The one on the lease with Derek. He told you about me? No. My investigator found you. She laughed, but there was no humor in it. Of course he didn't tell you. Derek never tells anyone anything. That's his specialty. Secrets. What's your relationship with him? She stopped walking and turned to face me, pulling off her sunglasses. Her eyes were tired, haunted. How much do you know about Derek's past? Apparently nothing. Everything I thought I knew turned out to be a lie. That sounds about right. She glanced around, then pulled a thick manila envelope from her tote bag. This is going to be hard to hear. You might want to sit down. We sat on a bench overlooking the garden. She handed me the envelope. My hands were shaking as I opened it. Inside were documents, police reports, court records, newspaper clippings yellowed with age. All dated between 15 and 20 years ago, all featuring the same name, Derek Mitchell Callahan. In 2006, Elaine said quietly, Derek was arrested for wire fraud in Indianapolis. He ran an investment scheme targeting elderly people, promising them high returns on safe investments. He took them for nearly $3 million before the FBI caught up with him. One of his victims was an 82-year-old widow who lost her entire life savings. She died 6 months later. Heart attack, officially. But everyone knew she died from the stress of what he'd done to her. The documents swam in front of my eyes. I was reading but not comprehending. Federal charges, wire fraud, conspiracy, a sentencing hearing. He served 4 years in federal prison, Elaine continued. When he got out, he changed everything. Started using his middle name, Mitchell, instead of Derek. Moved to Chicago. Created a new identity. built a new life. The conviction's still public record, but unless you know exactly what to look for, it's easy to miss. I felt like I was going to be sick. Why are you telling me this? Elaine's expression hardened. Because Derek did the same thing to me that he did to you. I met him 7 years ago, a year after he got out of prison. He didn't tell me about any of it. He presented himself as a successful consultant, a good man who'd been unlucky in love. We dated for 6 months, and then he proposed. Swept me off my feet, made me feel like I was the center of his universe. You married him? For 2 years, and during those 2 years, he was stealing from me, using my credit cards without permission, taking out loans in my name, draining my savings account little by little, always with an excuse, always with a promise to pay it back. By the time I figured out what was happening and filed for divorce, I was $50,000 in debt and he was gone. Disappeared. Changed his name again, probably. Started over somewhere else. But you found him. It took me 3 years. I hired investigators. I tracked his patterns. I learned how he operates. And when I finally found him here in Chicago, he'd done it again. New name. Well, his old name. Technically. New job. New life. And then I saw the wedding announcement. Your wedding announcement. In the Tribune. My hands were numb. I couldn't feel the papers I was holding. You've been watching him. I've been documenting him. Making sure that when he does this to the next woman, and there's always a next woman, she has evidence. She has proof. She has a way out before he destroys her life completely. If you've ever had the ground pulled out from under you, ever had everything you believed crumble in an instant, you know this feeling. This vertigo. This sense that reality itself is breaking apart. Make sure you're subscribed, because what I discovered next changed everything. And check the description box for more stories like this. Stories about uncovering the truth, no matter how much it hurts. Why did he marry me? I asked. My voice sounded strange, distant. If he just wanted my money, he could have stolen from me without going through a wedding. Because marriage gives him legal protection. Access to your credit, your assets, your financial life, all legally. And when you're married, you're less likely to press charges if you find out what he's doing. Most women just want out. They don't want the public shame of admitting they were conned by their own husband. But he pushed me away. Immediately after the wedding. He wouldn't even touch me. Elaine nodded. He did the same thing to me. I think it's psychological. I think once he's locked you in legally, he can't maintain the act anymore. The mask slips, and keeping you at a distance means you're less likely to notice when money starts disappearing. Has money started disappearing? I don't know. Has it? I thought about the hidden accounts, the shell companies, the mysterious influx of cash. I don't know. My forensic accountant found accounts I didn't know about, businesses I didn't know existed. But I can't tell if he's taking my money or just hiding his own. Probably both. That's what he does. He's a parasite. He finds successful women, marries them, bleeds them dry, and moves on. I looked down at the documents in my lap. Evidence of Derek's conviction. Photos of him being led into court in handcuffs. Victim impact statements from the elderly people he defrauded. Why didn't this come up in a background check? Did you do a background check? I hadn't. I trusted him. I'd believed his stories about Northwestern, about his career in finance, about his mother's death and his grandmother's ring. I'd believed all of it because I'd wanted to believe it. What do you want from me? I asked. I want you to help me stop him. I want you to press charges. I want you to make sure he doesn't do this to another woman. Because there will be another woman, Cassandra. There always is. And the next one might not be as smart as you. Might not have a sister to stay with or the resources to hire investigators. She might lose everything before she even realizes what's happening. I stared at the documents, my mind racing. If I pressed charges, what would it even be for? He hasn't stolen from me. Not that I can prove. Yet. He hasn't stolen from you yet. But he will. That's why you need to act now, while you still have leverage. File a police report. Get a restraining order. Make it official that you suspect financial abuse. It creates a paper trail. And when he does take your money, and he will, you'll have evidence that you saw it coming. My divorce attorney didn't mention any of this. Your divorce attorney is focused on dissolving the marriage. I'm focused on making sure he faces consequences for what he's done. What he's doing. what he will continue to do unless someone stops him. I looked at her, really looked at her. The exhaustion in her eyes. The set of her jaw. She'd spent years tracking Derek, documenting his movements, waiting for the right moment to intervene. This wasn't just about helping me. This was about her own need for justice. Did you ever press charges? I asked. Her expression darkened. I tried, but by the time I had enough evidence, the statute of limitations had passed on most of it. And what was left, the prosecutors said it wasn't enough. He'd been too careful. Everything he did was technically legal, even if it was morally bankrupt. That's why I need your help. You're still married to him. You still have access to his life. We can build a case together. I don't want access to his life. I want out. I know. And you will get out. But you can get out and get justice. You can get out and make sure he doesn't do this again. I stood up, the documents clutched in my hands. My head was spinning. 24 hours ago, I'd thought I was divorcing a cold, distant man who turned out to be different than I'd expected. Now I was learning he was a convicted felon, a con artist, a predator who'd done this before and would do it again. I need time to think, I said. Time is exactly what he's counting on. Time for you to feel sorry for him, to second-guess yourself, to wonder if maybe you're overreacting. That's how he works, Cassandra. He makes you doubt your own reality. I'm not doubting anything. I just need to process this. Elaine pulled a business card from her pocket. This is my number. And this, she pulled out another card, is a detective with the Financial Crimes Unit at Chicago PD. She's been following Derek's activities. She can't act without a victim willing to press charges, but if you're willing, she's ready. I took both cards, shoved them in my pocket along with the envelope full of Derek's past. Thank you, I said, for warning me, for caring enough to get involved. I'm not doing this for you, she said bluntly. I mean, I am, but not just for you. I'm doing this because I can't stand the thought of him getting away with it again. I can't stand knowing there's another woman out there right now, maybe on a dating app, maybe at a coffee shop, meeting him for the first time and thinking she's finally found someone good, someone real, and she has no idea what she's walking into. I walked back to where Jenna was waiting in the car. Marcus fell into step beside me. You okay? He asked quietly. No, but I will be. When I got in the car, Jenna took one look at my face and said, Drive or talk? Drive. Just drive. She pulled out into traffic, and we drove in silence for 20 minutes, winding through the city streets while I stared out the window and tried to make sense of what I just learned. My husband was a convicted criminal. My husband had done this before. My husband had married me as part of a pattern, a scheme, a long con that had probably started the moment we met. Had anything between us been real? Had he ever actually cared about me, or had I been nothing but a mark from the very beginning? Cass, Jenna said finally, talk to me. I told her everything. The fraud conviction, the prison time, the previous marriage to Elaine, the pattern of finding successful women, marrying them, stealing from them, disappearing. Oh my God, Jenna breathed. Oh my God, Cass. You have to press charges. You have to. But he hasn't actually stolen from me. He's hiding assets. He's got shell companies. That accountant said he's moving money around. Moving his own money around. Being shady, yes. Being a liar, absolutely. But I can't prove he's taken anything from me. Then we make him take something. We set a trap. I looked at her. What? We set a trap. Give him access to something he can't resist taking. And when he takes it, we nail him. It was crazy. Risky. Probably illegal in ways I hadn't even considered. But as I sat there in Jenna's car, holding evidence of Derek's past crimes, thinking about the woman he'd marry next if I didn't stop him, I realized I was done being a victim. I was ready to become something else entirely. I called Patricia Moreno the next morning and told her to slow down the divorce proceedings. Slow them down. She sounded confused. Cassandra, 2 days ago you couldn't wait to be done with this man. What changed? I found out who he really is, and I need time to build a case against him. I told her about Derek's conviction, his prison time, Elaine, the pattern. I told her about the detective who was waiting for a victim willing to press charges. Patricia was quiet for a long moment. This is risky. If you're planning what I think you're planning, I'm not planning anything illegal. I'm just not going to make it easy for him anymore. Cassandra, I have to advise you as your attorney that anything that looks like entrapment could backfire spectacularly if you deliberately set him up to commit a crime. I'm not setting him up to commit a crime. I'm just giving him an opportunity to be himself. If he takes it, that's on him. She sighed. Fine. I'll file for a continuance. Cite new financial disclosures that need to be reviewed. That'll buy you maybe 6 weeks. But after that, we're moving forward whether you have your case or not. 6 weeks is all I need. The plan was simple, at least in theory. I'd open a new bank account, separate from everything Derek had access to, and deposit a significant amount of money into it. $50,000, which I'd pull from my retirement savings. I'd make sure Derek found out about it somehow, make it seem like I was hiding assets from him in the divorce. And then I'd give him a way to access it. Derek was a thief. It was in his nature. If he thought I was trying to hide money from him, he wouldn't be able to resist taking it. This is insane, Jenna said when I explained it to her. What if he doesn't take the bait? Then I'm out $50,000 temporarily, and I file for divorce anyway. But I think he'll take it. Men like Derek, they can't help themselves. I called Elaine. I'm in. I want to help you build a case against him. What changed your mind? I keep thinking about what you said. About the next woman. I can't live with that on my conscience. Good. Because I have a lot more information than what I showed you in the park. Records of his spending patterns, his travel, his associates. If we work together, we can build something solid. Over the next week, I set everything up. I opened the new account at a small credit union Derek wouldn't think to look at. I transferred the $50,000 from my 401k, taking the penalty hit. I made sure to mention the account in a phone call to Jenna that I had while Derek was in the next room. I'd gone back to the condo to pick up some of my things, and he'd been there, hovering, trying to talk to me. I just need to make sure he doesn't find the credit union account. I'd said loudly enough for Derek to hear. The one with the $50,000. That's my safety net. I'd seen him go still, seen his ears practically perk up. Bingo. The next step was giving him access. I couldn't just hand him the account information. That would be too obvious. It had to seem accidental. So I wrote the account number and password on a piece of paper, then accidentally left it in the condo, tucked into a folder of old tax documents I'd claimed I needed for the divorce proceedings. Marcus had set up surveillance. Tiny cameras in the condo, legal, since I still technically live there, that would record Derek's movements. If he took the bait, if he accessed the account, we'd have video evidence. You're sure about this? Marcus asked me. Once you do this, there's no going back. If he takes the money, you're going to have to press charges. You're going to have to see this through. I'm sure. I'd also been meeting with the detective Elaine had mentioned. Her name was Sarah Reeves, and she'd been investigating Derek for months, ever since Elaine had first approached her with evidence of his previous crimes. The problem is, everything he's doing now is just barely on the legal side of things, Detective Reeves explained during our second meeting. He's hiding assets. Sure, but they're his assets. He's running money through shell companies, but technically that's legal if he's paying his taxes. We need him to actually steal something. We need him to commit a clear, prosecutable crime. What if he steals from me? Then we have him. Wire fraud, theft, maybe even identity theft if he uses your credentials to access accounts. But he has to actually do it. We can't arrest him for thinking about it. 3 days after I left the account information in the condo, Marcus called me. He took the bait. My heart started racing. When? About an hour ago. He came home from work, went straight to the folder where you left the information, photographed the paper with his phone. Then he sat at the computer for 45 minutes. I'm pulling the keystroke data now, but I'm betting he was accessing your account. Can you prove it? I've got video of him photographing the information. I've got video of him at the computer. And the credit union can pull records showing when the account was accessed and from what IP address. If it matches his home internet, we've got him. I called Detective Reeves immediately. Don't do anything yet, she said. Let him actually take the money. Accessing the account isn't enough. We need him to initiate a transfer or withdrawal. That's when it becomes theft. So I waited. 1 day, 2 days, 3 days. On the 4th day, my credit union app sent me an alert. Asterisk transfer initiated from account ending in 7742. Amount, $50,000. Destination, external account, asterisk. My hands were shaking as I screenshot the notification and sent it to Detective Reeves. She called me back within minutes. We're moving now. Don't contact him. Don't go to the condo. Let us handle this. The next 6 hours were the longest of my life. I sat in Jenna's living room, staring at my phone, waiting for updates. Jenna brought me tea I didn't drink. Tom offered to put on a movie I couldn't watch. The kids kept asking if Aunt Cassie was okay, and I kept telling them yes, even though I felt like I was vibrating out of my own skin. At 6:47 p.m., Detective Reeves called. We arrested him an hour ago at his office. He's been charged with wire fraud and theft. The evidence is solid. We've got the video from your investigator. We've got the bank records showing the transfer from your account to one of his shell company accounts. We've got everything we need. I should have felt triumphant, vindicated. Instead, I just felt tired. What happens now? He'll be arraigned tomorrow. Given his prior conviction and flight risk, I'm betting the judge sets a substantial bail. And Cassandra, he's asking to talk to you. Absolutely not. I figured, but I had to relay the message. That night, I finally let myself cry. Not for Derek, not for the marriage, but for the version of myself who'd believed in him. The version who thought she'd finally found partnership and peace. That version of me was gone, and I mourned her. The next morning, I met with Elaine at a coffee shop downtown. I heard, she said as soon as she saw me. You did it. You actually did it. We did it. I couldn't have done this without you. How do you feel? Honestly, empty. I thought I'd feel victorious, but I just feel sad. That's normal. You're not just losing a husband. You're losing the future you thought you'd have. That's worth grieving. Did you ever find out why he does it? What drives him? Elaine shook her head. I don't think he knows either. Some people are just broken in ways that can't be fixed. They see other people as resources, not as humans. And the sad thing is, I think on some level, Derek probably did care about you. As much as someone like him is capable of caring. But his need to take, to control, to scheme, it's always going to be stronger than his capacity for love. The trial happened 4 months later. Derek pleaded guilty to avoid a longer sentence. His attorney knew that with his prior conviction and the mountain of evidence against him, a jury trial would be a disaster. He got 6 years in federal prison. At the sentencing hearing, the judge asked if I wanted to make a victim impact statement. I stood up, walked to the podium, and looked at Derek for the first time since his arrest. He looked smaller somehow, diminished. The charming man I'd met at that gala 3 years ago was gone, replaced by someone who just looked tired and old. You told me once that your comfort came first, I said, my voice steady, that I had no right to pressure you. And you were right about one thing. I had no right to pressure you to be someone you weren't. But you had no right to lie to me about who you were. You had no right to marry me under false pretenses, to steal from me, to use me as a prop in whatever game you were playing. I hope you spend the next 6 years thinking about all the women you've hurt. And I hope that when you get out, you finally decide to become someone different, someone honest, someone capable of real connection. Because the person you've been, that person leaves nothing but destruction in his wake. Derek didn't look at me. He just stared at the table in front of him. After the sentencing, I walked out of the courthouse into bright sunshine. Elaine was waiting on the steps. You okay? She asked. I think so. For the first time in months, I actually think I'm going to be okay. What's next for you? I'm moving to Seattle. My company offered me a position out there, and I think I need a fresh start. Clean slate. New city. That sounds good. Really good. We hugged. 2 women who'd been connected by one man's lies, now connected by our shared survival. I moved to Seattle 6 weeks later. I found an apartment with a view of the water. I threw myself into my work. I started seeing a therapist who specialized in trauma and betrayal. Slowly, painstakingly, I started rebuilding my life. It took me 2 years before I was ready to date again. And when I finally did, I was different. Warier, yes, but also stronger. More certain of my own worth. More willing to trust my instincts. I'm 45 now. Single, successful, content in a way I've never been before. The marriage to Derek feels like something that happened to a different person in a different lifetime. Sometimes people ask me if I regret it, the relationship, the wedding, all of it. I tell them no, because that experience, as painful as it was, taught me something crucial. I am strong enough to walk away, strong enough to fight back, strong enough to rebuild. And if there's another woman out there right now, in the early stages of falling for someone who seems too good to be true, I hope she remembers that sometimes, too good to be true is exactly what it is. I hope she trusts her instincts. I hope she asks questions. I hope she never, ever settles for someone who makes her feel invisible. Because we all deserve to be seen. Really seen. For who we actually are. That's my story. That's what happened in the 8 weeks following my wedding, and in all the weeks that came after. If this resonated with you, if you've ever been betrayed or had to rebuild your life from scratch, drop a comment below. Let me know where you're watching from. Tell me your story. And make sure to check the description box for more stories like this one. Stories about women who refused to be victims, who fought back, who survived. We're stronger than we think. All of us. And sometimes we don't discover that strength until we're tested in ways we never imagined. Thank you for listening. Thank you for being here. And remember, your comfort matters too. Never let anyone tell you otherwise.